The Galactic Council's observation vessel hung motionless in the shadow of Saturn's rings, its adaptive camouflage rendering it invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems, or at least what they believed to be primitive detection systems. Senior observer Xanthor stood at the bridge viewport, their crystalline form refracting the distant sunlight as they studied the latest report from their infiltration teams. Another failure, they muttered, setting down the neural tablet. Third team this cycle to report complete memory loss upon approaching Earth orbit. The ship's AI hummed in acknowledgement. Confirmed, Senior Observer. Team Gamma 7 experienced total data corruption and equipment failure at precisely the same distance as previous attempts. All organic memories of the approach were erased. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Council had observed thousands of pre-spacefaring civilizations before, and none had ever exhibited such peculiar defensive capabilities, especially not ones they claimed not to possess. Play the last transmission from Gamma 7, Xanthor commanded. The holographic display sparkled to life, showing the small scout ship approaching Earth's outer atmosphere. The team leader's voice came through clearly, approaching standard observation altitude. All systems nominal. No signs of detection. Wait. Something's wrong. The readings don't make any. Static consumed the transmission for 3 seconds before clearing. Mission log, Gamma 7. Routine system check complete. All systems nominal. Returning to base for standard maintenance. Xanthor had reviewed this footage 100 times. The team had no memory of their approach, their mission, or what they'd seen. Their equipment showed no signs of damage or tampering, yet all data from the critical moments was simply gone. Connect me with the Council, Xanthor ordered. A moment later, the faces of 7 ancient beings shimmered into view around them. Report, Observer, the first speaker commanded. Honorable Council, I believe we must consider the possibility that we have fundamentally misunderstood the humans. Xanthor paused, gathering their thoughts. For 50 of their years, we have watched them wage their petty wars, burn their fossil fuels, and pollute their oceans. We categorized them as a Type 0.7 civilization based on their visible technology. But the evidence no longer supports this classification. Explain, the third speaker demanded. No primitive civilization should be capable of the defensive measures we're encountering. Our teams aren't being attacked or destroyed. They're being edited. Something is selectively removing all trace of human defensive capabilities from both organic and digital memory. This suggests technology far beyond our own capabilities. The council chambers erupted in murmurs. The second speaker leaned forward. Are you suggesting these humans are deliberately appearing primitive? I believe they're maintaining a facade, Xanthor replied. Consider. They continue to use rockets and combustion engines publicly, while our deep space sensors detect no emissions from these supposedly primitive technologies. Their satellites appear crude, yet somehow maintain perfect orbital harmony without apparent course corrections. Their wars seem barbaric, yet no nuclear weapons have ever actually detonated in conflict, despite thousands being allegedly stockpiled. These are troubling observations, the first speaker acknowledged. What do you recommend? I believe it's time for direct contact, Xanthor said. Not through infiltration or observation, but an honest approach. If humans are indeed hiding their true nature, perhaps they would respond to. The ship's emergency alarms suddenly blared to life. The AI's voice cut through the chaos. Unknown vessel approaching. No drive signature detected. No mass reading detected. No energy emissions detected. Impossible, Xanthor breathed. Turning to the viewport, a ship hung there in the void, sleek and dark, appearing as if it had always been there. It was clearly of human design, though unlike anything they'd seen in Earth orbit. No seams were visible on its hull, and it seemed to drink in the light around it. Greetings, Observer Xanthor. A calm voice transmitted on all frequencies simultaneously. We appreciate your patience and diligence in studying us these past 5 decades. You're correct. It's time for direct contact. We've been waiting for one of you to finally notice the discrepancies. The council members watched in stunned silence as the human vessel's hull shifted, revealing what appeared to be a docking port perfectly matched to their own ship's specifications. Perhaps, the human voice continued, it's time we discussed humanity's real role in the galaxy and why we've maintained this charade for so long. After all, someone has to guard against what lies between the stars. We've carried that burden alone for 12,000 years, but perhaps it's time to share it. Xanthor looked at the council faces, each showing varying degrees of shock and realization. The first speaker nodded slowly. Proceed, observer. Make contact. We have much to learn about our predecessors. As Xanthor began docking procedures, they couldn't help but wonder what other revelations awaited them. Humanity hadn't been hiding from the galaxy. They'd been protecting it. And now, finally, someone had passed their test of observation and deduction. The real question was, what exactly had humanity been protecting the galaxy from all this time? The docking sequence completed with impossible precision, not even a whisper of vibration passing through either vessel. Xanthor stood at the airlock, their crystalline form shifting through shades of blue, a sign of nervous anticipation among their species. The council's holographic representations watched silently as the airlock cycled. The human who stepped through was not what they expected. She was tall for her species, dressed in what appeared to be a simple gray uniform without insignia or markings. Her dark skin seemed to shimmer slightly, as if overlaid with an invisible lattice of energy. I'm Admiral Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Network, she said, her voice matching the one from the transmission. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Invitation. Xanthor's crystalline form flickered. We initiated contact. The Admiral's smile was gentle but knowing. Did you? Think carefully about the pattern of your observations, the gradual noticing of discrepancies, the building curiosity, the final realization. We've been guiding your investigation for decades, observer Xanthor. You were chosen because your species thinks in patterns, in crystalline structures of logic. You were most likely to see through our facade. The fourth speaker's hologram stepped forward. Why maintain the facade at all? Why present yourselves as primitive? Follow me. Admiral Chen gestured toward her ship. Some things are better shown than told. As they crossed the threshold into the human vessel, reality seemed to shift. The interior was impossibly vast, corridors stretching in directions that shouldn't exist in normal space. Xanthor's sensors were reporting spatial readings that made no mathematical sense. Welcome to the labyrinth, Chen said. One of humanity's true ships. What you're experiencing is dimensional overlap. We exist in several planes simultaneously. It's how we maintain our watch. Your watch. The first speaker's hologram had followed them. What exactly are you watching for? They entered what appeared to be a command center, though it bore little resemblance to any such facility Xanthor had seen. The walls were alive with shifting patterns of light, and in the center stood a holographic representation of the galaxy. But not as they knew it. Overlaid on the familiar spiral arms were patterns of energy, flowing like rivers between the stars. 12,000 years ago, Chen began, humanity made a discovery. We weren't the first species to achieve spaceflight, but we were the first to notice the pattern. She gestured to the flowing energy rivers in the hologram. These are ley lines, channels of fundamental force that connect solar systems. Most species eventually discover how to use them for FTL travel, but we noticed something else. They were degrading. The hologram shifted, showing the energy flows growing dimmer, developing breaks and discontinuities. The fabric of space itself was slowly coming apart. The entity responsible had already consumed 3 galaxies before reaching ours. We called it the Void Weaver, a cosmic parasite that feeds on the fundamental forces holding reality together. Xanthor's crystalline form paled. The memory losses our teams experienced. Protection protocols. Chen nodded. We maintain a network of dimensional shields around Earth and other key systems. Anyone approaching with sufficiently advanced scanning technology has their memories and data selectively edited. It's kinder than the alternative. Which is? The second speaker demanded. Total atomic dissolution, Chen said grimly. The Void Weaver can process and replicate any technology it encounters. Our only advantage is that it doesn't know we exist. We maintain the appearance of a primitive species to avoid drawing its attention while we work to contain it. The hologram zoomed out, showing the local galactic cluster. Vast sections of nearby galaxies were simply missing. Not dark, not empty. Missing, as if reality itself had been erased. This is why we've remained hidden, Chen continued. Why we keep our true capabilities secret. Every advanced civilization that detected the Void Weaver tried to fight it directly. Every one of them was absorbed, their technology and knowledge added to its capabilities. We learned from their mistakes. We chose to become the silent guardians, working from the shadows to reinforce the galaxy's fundamental structure. The primitive rockets, the fake satellites. Xanthor began. Props, Chen confirmed. Our real technology operates on principles that don't register on conventional sensors. We don't burn fuel. We surf gravitational eddies. We don't orbit. We anchor to space-time itself. Our weapons aren't energy beams or projectiles. They're localized patches of altered physical laws. The first speaker's hologram flickered thoughtfully. Why reveal this to us now? Chen's expression grew grave. Because the Void Weaver is accelerating its consumption. Our models show total galactic collapse within 3 centuries unless we can stop it. And we finally developed a potential solution. But we need help. Specifically, we need beings who can think in crystalline patterns, who can help us restructure the very foundation of space-time. She turned to Xanthor, her eyes intense. Your people weren't just chosen for observation. You were chosen as potential allies. The question is, are you ready to help us save reality itself? Xanthor looked at the council holograms, then back at the horrifying galactic display. Their crystalline form shifted to a deep, determined purple. What do you need us to do? Admiral Chen smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. First, you need to understand what we're really fighting. And for that, she gestured to a doorway that hadn't existed a moment before. We need to show you the edge. The door opened onto absolute darkness, not the darkness of space, but the darkness of non-existence. The darkness of what remained after the Void Weaver fed. The darkness beyond the doorway seemed to pull at Xanthor's crystalline form, creating uncomfortable resonances within their structure. Admiral Chen produced a small device from her uniform. A simple gray sphere that hummed with barely perceptible energy. Crystalline stabilizer, she explained. The edge tends to disagree with ordered structures. Your physical form would shatter without protection. The council holograms flickered anxiously as Chen led Xanthor through the doorway. They emerged onto what appeared to be an observation platform, suspended in nothingness. Ahead of them stretched a sight that defied comprehension. A perfect line where reality simply stopped. On one side, the familiar starfield of their galaxy. On the other, absolute void. This is a containment point, Chen explained. One of thousands we maintain around the galaxy. The Void Weaver's influence reaches through like tendrils, trying to pull reality apart. We push back. As if on cue, something moved in the darkness. Not a physical movement, more like a ripple in the concept of movement itself. Xanthor's sensors screamed conflicting data before shutting down completely. What you're seeing, or rather, failing to see, is a void tendril, Chen continued. It doesn't exist in any conventional sense. It's more like an equation for unmaking existence, seeking variables to solve itself with. How do you fight such a thing? Xanthor's voice carried an unfamiliar tremor. Chen raised her hand, and reality rippled. A barrier of pure law materialized, pushing back against the darkness. We don't fight it. We reject its assertions. Every containment point is maintained by human minds linked to our quantum network, constantly redefining the rules of space-time to exclude the Void Weaver's influence. That's why you need us, Thor realized. Our crystalline thought patterns could help us structure reality more efficiently, yes. Chen lowered her hand. Right now, we're holding back the tide through sheer force of will. But your people think in perfect geometric patterns. You could help us create permanent structural reinforcement for the fabric of space-time itself. A sudden alarm echoed through the chamber. The darkness pulsed, and for a moment, Xanthor saw something in the void, a lattice of ungeometry, a pattern that violated every law of mathematics they knew. Breach attempt, Chen said calmly, though her face had gone pale. Observe. The air filled with shimmering points of light, holographic representations of human minds linked to the defense network. They moved in perfect synchronization, weaving walls of pure law across the breach point. The darkness recoiled, but not before Xanthor glimpsed what lay beyond. Galaxies, hundreds of them, twisted and wrong, processed through the Void Weaver's incomprehensible consciousness. Each star system repurposed into computational nodes, each planet converted into sensors, all serving the entity's singular purpose, the reduction of everything to nothing. Now you understand why we hide, Chen said softly. Why we maintain the facade of primitiveness. The Void Weaver processes and adapts to everything it encounters. Our only advantage is that it doesn't know what to look for. It sees our combustion engines and primitive satellites and dismisses us as irrelevant. But surely other species could help, Xanthor protested. The combined might of the galaxy would fail. Chen cut them off. Every species that's discovered the threat has tried to fight it conventionally. Every one of them has been processed, their technology and knowledge absorbed, and turned against reality itself. We chose a different path. We hid our advancement. We became the Watchers, the silent guardians, maintaining the barriers between existence and unexistence. She turned to face Xanthor directly. But we're reaching our limits. The Void Weaver is learning, adapting, finding new ways to unmake reality. We need fresh perspectives, new ways of thinking about the structure of space-time itself. That's why we let you discover us. The council holograms, which had been silently observing, finally spoke. The first speaker's voice was heavy with understanding. You need us to help redesign reality itself. Yes, Chen nodded. But more than that, we need allies who understand the true nature of the threat, who can help us maintain the facade while working behind the scenes to strengthen the universe's fundamental structure. Xanthor watched another ripple of ungeometry test the barriers. How many humans are engaged in this defense? All of us, Chen said simply. Every human mind is connected to the network from birth. Our public lives, our seeming conflicts and primitive technologies, it's all carefully orchestrated theater. Every human is always partially focused on maintaining the barriers, even if they're not consciously aware of it. And now you want to connect our minds to this network as well. Not exactly, Chen smiled. We want you to help us design a better network. Your crystalline thought patterns, combined with our experiential understanding of reality manipulation. Together, we might be able to create something permanent, something that could finally end this threat. Another alarm blared, more urgent than the last. The darkness pulsed with malevolent geometry. Time to decide, Chen said grimly. That was a stronger probe than usual. The Void Weaver is learning, adapting. We need your answer. Will you help us redesign reality? Or should we send you back with edited memories, forever wondering why humanity seems so oddly primitive? Xanthor's crystalline form shifted through colors before settling on a deep, resolute gold. We'll help, but I have one question. What happens if we fail? Chen's expression was grim. Then reality itself becomes void, and the concept of failure becomes meaningless, along with every other concept in existence. The darkness pulsed again, and this time it felt like it was smiling. The return journey through the labyrinth felt different to Xanthor. Each impossible corridor now seemed to pulse with purpose, the dimensional overlaps no longer confusing but revealing glimpses of humanity's true work. Through one spatial fold, they glimpsed thousands of humans in deep meditation, their minds linked to the defense network. Through another, they saw vast chambers filled with crystalline structures not unlike their own form, each one holding mathematical equations that redefined local space-time. Our public wars, Chen explained as they walked, are choreographed to hide our real battles. Every nuclear missile silo is actually a reality anchor point. Every satellite carries quantum reinforcement nodes. Even our internet. It's not just for cat videos. It's a vast neural network, helping coordinate our collective defense of existence itself. The council holograms followed, their forms now showing signs of understanding. The third speaker spoke. The greenhouse gases your species produces. Quantum camouflage. Chen nodded. The emissions create a field that masks our true energy signatures. Global warming is carefully controlled. Another part of the facade. They entered a new chamber, one that seemed to exist in all possible dimensions simultaneously. At its center floated a perfect sphere of what appeared to be liquid mathematics. This is the core, Chen said, her voice reverent. The quantum computational center of our defense network. And this, she gestured to the sphere, is where we need your help. Xanthor approached the sphere, their crystalline form resonating with its equations. It's beautiful, but incomplete. Exactly. Chen smiled. We've reached the limits of what human minds can conceptualize. We need your crystalline thought patterns to help complete the pattern, to create a permanent solution to the Void Weaver threat. The first speaker's hologram moved closer. You're not just fighting this entity. You're trying to rewrite the fundamental laws of reality to make its existence impossible. Yes, Chen confirmed, but we need to do it subtly. If the Void Weaver detects what we're attempting, it will bring its full power against us. Our current defenses wouldn't hold. A sudden tremor ran through the ship. Alert symbols flashed across the walls in patterns that hurt to look at. Chen's face went ashen. Multiple breach attempts, she announced. The Void Weaver, it's changing its strategy. Instead of trying to break through our barriers, it's trying to unwrite the barriers themselves. Xanthor finished, their crystalline form registering the mathematical impossibilities being leveraged against reality. Through the dimensional folds, they could see humans everywhere snapping to attention, their minds fully engaging with the defense network. The ship's walls became transparent, revealing the true Earth below, not the primitive world of nations and conflicts, but a planet-sized quantum computer, its surface covered in geometric patterns of pure thought. Full alert, Chen commanded. All facades down. Show them everything. The galaxy map reappeared, but now it showed the true state of things. Earth wasn't just one point of defense. It was the anchor for a vast web of quantum reinforcement that stretched throughout the galaxy. Every human colony, every seemingly primitive outpost, was actually a node in an impossibly complex defense grid. We've maintained the illusion of primitiveness for 12,000 years, Chen said, her voice tight with concentration as she linked with the defense network. We've hidden our true nature, played the role of squabbling children, all while holding reality itself together. But now, the darkness beyond the edge rippled with malevolent purpose. Mathematical impossibilities began to seep through the quantum barriers. Reality itself shuddered. It knows, Xanthor whispered, their crystalline form vibrating with the fundamental frequencies of space-time. The Void Weaver has figured out what we are. Chen nodded grimly. Which means we no longer have the luxury of subtlety. We need to implement the final solution now, ready or not. Your crystalline thought patterns, combined with our quantum network. She turned to the council holograms. We need your decision, not just for research or future planning. We need it now. Will you join your minds with ours? The darkness pulsed again, stronger this time. Through the dimensional folds, they could see the defense grid starting to crack. The Void Weaver wasn't just attacking, it was systematically undefining the very concepts that made reality possible. The first speaker looked at their fellow council members, then at Xanthor, then at the encroaching darkness that threatened to unmake everything. Their decision would change the course of existence itself, or end it entirely. "We accept," they said in unison. Chen's relief was palpable. "Then let's rewrite the universe," she said, extending her hand toward the core. Together, the darkness surged, and the final battle for reality itself began. The core chamber erupted with energy as Xanthor's crystalline consciousness merged with the human quantum network. The experience defied description. Billions of human minds working in perfect synchronization, each one maintaining a different aspect of reality's structural integrity. And now, threading through that vast neural tapestry, the crystalline clarity of Xanthor's mathematical thoughts began to impose order on chaos. "The patterns," Xanthor gasped, their form pulsing with newfound understanding. "They're beautiful." Chen nodded, her own consciousness deeply entwined with the network. "This is humanity's true face. Not the squabbling primitives we pretend to be, but this. Unity in diversity, billions of minds working as one to protect existence itself." The Void Weaver's assault intensified. Through the dimensional folds, they could see reality beginning to unravel. Entire star systems flickered as their fundamental mathematical underpinnings were challenged by impossible equations. "Focus," Chen commanded, her voice resonating through the quantum network. "Xanthor, we need your crystalline patterns now. Help us complete the equation." The core sphere pulsed with new energy as Xanthor's consciousness fully integrated with it. Their natural ability to think in perfect geometric patterns began to influence the quantum calculations, bringing new order to humanity's desperate improvisations. Yes, the first speaker's hologram observed, their own consciousness now linked to the network. "We see it now. You haven't just been defending reality. You've been gradually restructuring it. Every attack by the Void Weaver has been an opportunity to reinforce space-time's fundamental laws." Chen smiled grimly. "For 12,000 years, we've been turning defense into reconstruction. Each breach attempt has allowed us to strengthen reality's foundation. And now, with your crystalline thought patterns, we can complete the pattern." Xanthor finished, their form blazing with mathematical insight. Through their shared consciousness, they could see the full scope of humanity's grand plan. They hadn't just been protecting reality. They had been slowly, carefully rewriting its most fundamental laws. The Void Weaver seemed to sense the change. Its assault on reality's fabric became frenzied, desperate. Impossible geometries crashed against quantum barriers. The very concept of existence shuddered under the strain. "Now," Chen commanded. In that moment, every human mind in the galaxy focused as one. Combined with Xanthor's crystalline patterns and the Council's vast knowledge, their shared consciousness reached out to the very foundations of reality. The core sphere blazed with unimaginable energy as they executed humanity's 12,000-year plan. They weren't fighting the Void Weaver anymore. They were changing the rules that made its existence possible. Reality rippled. The quantum defense grid, no longer needed, began to dissolve. But in its place, something new emerged, a fundamental restructuring of spacetime itself. The crystalline patterns of Xanthor's thoughts merged with humanity's quantum mathematics, creating new laws of physics that simply didn't allow for the concept of unexistence. The Void Weaver's assault stopped, not because it was defeated, but because it suddenly had never existed. Reality reformed around the new parameters, 12,000 years of careful preparation finally bearing fruit. When the light faded, Chen helped steady Xanthor as their consciousness returned to normal space. Through the labyrinth's dimensional folds, they could see Earth transforming. The facade of primitiveness fell away, revealing humanity's true civilization. A quantum-linked society of unified minds and impossible technology. It's done, Chen said softly. Reality itself has been restructured. The threat of the Void Weaver isn't just gone. It's now mathematically impossible. The council holograms flickered with amazement. You succeeded beyond all expectation, the first speaker said. But what now? Your deception is no longer needed. Chen looked out at the transformed Earth, then back at their allies. Now we do what humanity has always done. We explore, we learn, we grow. But this time, we do it openly with our new allies. She smiled. After all, someone needs to help explain to the rest of the galaxy why reality suddenly runs on slightly different mathematics. Tanfor's form shimmered with amusement, and the primitive facade, the rockets and satellites. We'll keep some of it, Chen laughed. They make excellent museums, but it's time for humanity to step out of the shadows. We've been the silent guardians long enough. Now we can be something else. What's that? Tanfor asked. Chen looked out at the galaxy. Change, renewed, and finally, truly safe. Now we can simply be ourselves, and maybe help guide the younger species as they discover the new laws of physics we've all just created. She paused thoughtfully. Though perhaps we should warn them about the slight changes to quantum mechanics. The look on their faces when they realize gravity is now slightly purple might be amusing. The council holograms flickered with what might have been laughter. Above them, Earth continued its transformation, revealing its true nature to the galaxy at large. Humanity's longest mission was complete. The silent guardians could finally speak. And somewhere, in the newly restructured fabric of space-time, the laws of physics hummed in perfect crystalline harmony, ensuring that some threats could never exist again. The facade was over. The real work of guiding the galaxy could begin.